I'm right.
You good?
Here we go.
All right, lovely. I'm going to let everybody in now. So remember, if you can avoid muting yourselves, then please do. Lovely. Letting everybody in now. Oh, lovely to see you all. Lots of smiling faces coming through. Just letting in the last couple of guests now. Lovely. Thank you all so much for joining us tonight. I'd like to begin by acknowledging the traditional owners of the land on which I'm currently seated, the Yagara and Turrbal people. I'd like to pay my respects to elders past and present, and to elders who are joining us all on Zoom this evening. It is my absolute pleasure to be hosting tonight's launch of Nardi Simpson's Song of the Crocodile. Before I hand you over to our speakers this evening, I'd like to quickly reiterate some of the information that I mentioned in the email that you were sent earlier with your link to join us this evening. So you've all automatically been placed on mute, and you'll remain so throughout the event, but I will unmute everybody at the end of the evening so that you can join me in thanking Nardi and Grace for tonight's discussion. Nardi is keen to answer your questions towards the end of the event if we've got time, so please start sending them through to me as you think of them using the chat box. If you can't see it, then you'll find the button that will open it towards the bottom left of your screen. The questions that you type in there will come straight through to me, and I'll read them out along with your name towards the end of the event. I'd also like to mention that at the moment we have a special promotion for event attendees, and that is if you use the code EVENT, E-V-E-N-T, at checkout when you make a purchase on our website, then you'll receive 10% off your purchase site-wide. I'll be posting the link to purchase your copy of Song of the Crocodile shortly via that chat box. And so I'd now like to introduce Nardi Simpson. Nardi is a Uwalari writer, musician, composer and educator from northwest New South Wales, Freshwater Plains. A founding member of Indigenous folk duo Stiff Gins, Nardi has been performing nationally and internationally for 20 years. In conversation with Nardi tonight, we have Grace Lucas Pennington. Grace is a Bundjalung editor. She's the editor for State Library of Queensland's Black and Write Indigenous Writing and Editing Project. Grace and Nardi worked together for over a year on this incredible story, along with junior editor Caitlin Murphy. Grace is so pleased to be here with you tonight to launch Song of the Crocodile. And so Grace and Nardi, it is now my pleasure to hand over to you both for tonight's discussion.
Thank you.
Thank you. Hello, Nardi.
Hi, Grace. We're connected again. It's great to see you and talk to you and go over old times.
It's so great to dive back into this book with you. It's been a long journey for this one. I know I came on in 2018, and we'll get to the genesis of the book in a little while. But first of all, I would like to thank Avid Reader for having this event tonight, for Hachette Australia, who are publishing Nardi's wonderful book. I'd also like to thank State Library of Queensland for supporting the Black and Write project and allowing us to share these wonderful stories as widely as possible. I'd also like to acknowledge that I stand tonight on Yagara and Turrbal land on a place called Carilpa Point in the State Library of Queensland, situated, a place of gathering and meeting for many, many, many thousands of years. And we're very pleased to be able to continue this tonight with all of you. So I welcome you, acknowledge you. I'd like to also invite you to take a moment to reflect on your relationship with the land where you are and with how you move through the world quietly, because you're all on Zoom and you're muted, of course. But thank you all for coming tonight. So as I was saying, in 2018, Nardi Simpson was selected as a Black and Write Fellowship winner for her manuscript, Song of the Crocodile. But the story and this manuscript began a lot earlier, I think, than when I came onto it. So Nardi, would you like to tell us about how this story began for you?
I think there's no particular point where I thought, oh, I want to write that. But I remember we live in Sydney and Dad's family's from Walgett and Lightning Ridge, and his parents were born in a tiny little place near the Queensland border called Angledool. And when they moved off the mission, they were always living at the edges of town. And Dad's one of 11. And the stories in our family are of these beautiful, wonderful, rich times on the outskirts, almost at a time when they had nothing. And I always used to think, you know, all this language that they've got about it, they say it was the golden years. And my sort of sensibilities were, yeah, but that doesn't, what it appeared to be and what it sounded like were really different. And I think that was the beginning of me. I started writing because I wanted to be there. I wanted to see what they saw and felt what they felt. And sort of the campgrounds gradually appeared. And also, you know, the transition from music to writing, I sort of thought, well, how am I going to do this? You know, this is a great bloody idea. How are you going to do it? And the character of Jackie Bird, who was a songman, sort of, I was writing about singing to try and get me into writing, and he appeared, and then I sort of just followed him. So it was a mixture of long time history, family history, and points, recognisable, things that were recognisable to me, that sort of all mashed together on a page, and then through the help of wonderful people like you, helped me make sense of it. Yeah, so it was really, I guess, I think about it, it was always doing that. Do I look weird? It's always just hanging around there. And somehow went into there and then came out this way, yeah.
Why did you want to do a book after music for so long?
Well, I'll let everyone in on a secret. I sing with this beautiful, my best friend, Kalina Briggs. She's a Yorta Yorta woman from the Riverina in New South Wales. She can sing anything. And when I started at TAFE, there was another amazing singer there too, Emma Donovan, 2 women, they were girls, who could sing anything. And I have a good ear, and I sort of am determined. Apart from that, I maybe don't have a flair like they do for music. And I always, when I write songs, I write story. I'm sort of very focused on story. You know, my singing, I really love singing, and I say I'm the meat and potatoes of the stiff gin dinner plate. You know, I'm in the boiler room keeping it going, and I love it. But I feel musically I'm limited. But I always thought that writing was something that was came a bit more naturally to me, if I could say that. So I've lucked out with having a really good singing partner completely, and had sort of fallen into all these really wonderful opportunities and places, and I've got a good ear, but you know, I'm not really that good. So I was looking for things that I'd be better at.
Well, I'm not going to agree that you're not good at music, first of all, but I will say that you're a natural writer. When I read your manuscript for the competition, I was a judge for the competition, I read it and I was like, here's someone who has something to say and who knows what they want to say. I was blown away when I first read it. In fact, maybe you'd like to read a little bit from it.
Oh, yes.
Right now, for us.
Thank you, very kind, Grace.
Thank you.
I'd love to. Okay. Margaret Lightning opened her eyes with the first soft stretching of birds' wings, a waking pink sky beginning its creep over her Hessian and tin home. A fog hung upon the river. It spilled over the lip of the bank and into the campgrounds, blurring the edges of each gundi and lean-to, suspending them in an exhaled breath. Only ants and eagles were up and well into their business, scavenging what they could from the dew-laden night before. Soon, parrots would join, their shrieks cannoning along the surface of the water, a bush alarm, wake and to rise. This would trigger a chain of events. Sunlight stretching across cold tin, roofs popping, warm muscles shifting under scratchy too-short blankets, a series of stretches and farts, then the opening of eyes. In a short while, smoke would rise to meet the fog, and the smell of kitchen fires would permeate the riverfront. The inhabitants of the campgrounds would rise to prepare for the new day. As Margaret sat up and placed her feet upon the dirt floor, a family of sulphur-crested cockatoos dived into the enormous red gum at the front of the camp. She slipped her arms into her nightgown as the bird screeched, its hem floating like her own tail behind her as she walked out of her room, pulled aside the heavy canvas that hung as her front door, and stepped outside. Lifting the lid of the browning water drum and placing it silently down, she cupped her hands, then submerged them, allowing the water's icy pulse to stream into her veins. To take her mind from the stinging cold, she began to hum, careful to restrict the descending line so that only a series of squeaks and gushes of air emitted from her body. While her hands floated, she swam in the song. Margaret lifted her face towards the sky, its rising warmth pushing her chin upwards, closing her eyes. Heat crept into the lines on her face. She felt it drip into her brow and trickle towards her lips from the pathways of her temples and her cheeks. With her hands in the water and her face to the sun, Margaret lightly continued her song. She hummed as she rubbed water into her face and ran her wet hands through her hair, as she then twisted and pulled it into her regular low bun. She even hummed as she prodded at the wiry strands of grey that had begun to spark at her forehead. The tune rolled on as she walked back inside and changed into her undergarments and slip, her uniform and shoes. Only when she took up her purse, a refashioned canvas water bag, from the kitchen table and left her home, did she bring the sound forwards, daring to push it into the air in front of her. Her breath and her words soon transformed timid tune into robust phrase. Margaret's footsteps keeping time as she walked the first of the 4 miles into town along the river's edge.
Beautiful, thank you. I can see people clapping.
Thank you.
That was beautiful. Margaret, and where this story begins, really, and her daughter Celie and her daughter Millie make up the main body of this book. Can you tell me about the love that these women have and the family love and why that was so important for you to include in this story?
When I think back to how Dad talks about things, I know that actually that's exactly all that they had. And actually not just that Simpson mob in one place, but the next house and the next house and the next house, you know, the Morgans and the McBrides and the people that they're still connected to now. Or they were almost like, in my understanding of Dad's childhood, little hearts, little fires, warmth in a time that was very challenging, and you know they were separated from, physically separated from the goings on. And so, as often is the case with people who have very little, the people that they have become the most important. And I think that, you know, what we know now, COVID, what have we got? Family. And I've been lucky to, you know, inherit big mobs of people and smaller groups of people, and for me, that's the joy in my life. So I was sort of writing what I knew in that way. Yeah.
I think the love of family comes through so strongly. It's one of the main themes of the book, and those connections as well. But also what happens when those connections can be disrupted, you know, and I think that really speaks to what you're saying. That is sometimes all that we have.
Yeah. I mean, also family in the book, but in my mind, it's about love, but it's also about this ability to find humour, even when things aren't funny. And so if you're laughing, and you don't feel it, eventually if you do it long enough, then it takes over your body. So family and love and humour, being able to, what's the word? Not resurrect, some word, some deadly word I can't think of, being able to, whatever that word is, embodies laughter, leads to being able to cope, which sometimes isn't always a good thing, but on the whole, you know, if you're laughing with someone, it's much more enjoyable than laughing by yourself.
Oh yeah, that's for sure. I think that's a very blackfellow way of dealing with some of that, because there is trauma in the book as well as love, and I'd be interested to know how you balanced the strength of these characters, particularly the women, but also a few of the male characters are very, very strong in themselves, and how they do undergo a lot of change and a lot of trauma in their lives. And I wondered how you look to balance that.
I think really, if I thought too much about it, it wouldn't feel a natural thing to me. Maybe because I've seen it and I know it, and it's a recognisable thing in our communities wherever you go, that it's a very real thing. I mean, I often think about how Aboriginal communities are sort of celebrated for being resilient, and you know how great it is that we're resilient. And I think at some point you want to stop having to be that. You know, you want the path to be clear, so that you have to stop struggling for joy and love, and it happens naturally. So I think, you know, maybe it wasn't so much me making things up as me relaying what I have seen in my own family, that, you know, hit after hit after hit after hit can almost be absorbed by the connection with the people that you go through that with. And when you're able to manufacture a bit of joy, it makes it okay for the next time that you suffer those blows. And I mean, maybe it's this natural living balance. I don't know, but I've definitely seen people be able to cope and be happy, and then be a lot less happy. And this is the story of how people's lives unfold.
Yeah. Yeah, there is a lot of humour in the book as well as trauma, particularly the butter scene I'm thinking of right now. I won't spoil that for people who haven't read it yet.
That actually happened. That I can attribute that to my oldest auntie. It happened. She had us all. She had us wrapped around that one there. Look.
Oh, that's so good. I can see that. You talk about history a lot in this book, and writing the history, and you mentioned it just then. It's like things that you've seen and absorbed. And in your blog post that I read about this book, you called it a creative conversation with history. Do you want to talk about what you mean by that? Because you said you weren't making things up, but then you have made things up as well.
Yeah. Well, look, I mean, it was, like I said in the beginning, that wish to be on that riverbank and watching my aunties and uncles and father as teenagers and kids, and seeing what is this place and things that are going on here that has shaped not just me, my sisters, and our children's lives. I wanted to sort of see that. And while I was trying to travel there, also not just wanting to blurt out somebody else's experience and not sort of stomping over that with my interpretation of that, but working out, okay, well, if I can time travel onto that river frontage, how do I need to treat here? Because it is somebody's truth, and it's almost like you've got to kind of allow that thing to be the truth of what it was to those people then. Keep that intact. But also, here I am as a wannabe writer trying to work out how to craft something like that to be able to share with people who may not have a concept of that, or how do I get non-Indigenous people, or people from the city or whatever, to feel the same thing that I'm feeling while I'm standing here time traveling. So it was a lot to do with a conversation with my family history, but also me being aware that, I actually have work to do here. They didn't do it all for me. That's their story, and that's their life. The good parts of that I can relate to, how am I going to choose to share that with people? So that's really, the conversation was about me and my craft and me and my family's history.
Yeah.
It was all those things sort of molded up together.
Yeah, it's really beautiful. And of course, the conversation doesn't end, does it? It goes on.
That's a beautiful thing, just to think, not just my great-grandkids might want to know what this day was like, talking to you and all these people all around Australia listening to me talking about their great-great-great-grandfather. But also, this has already happened for people in the past who had done the same, forward and back in that time. So it is a lovely feeling to think, while you're exploring newness for you, that you're actually following a pattern that has been created for you.
Paths we don't know we're meant to walk yet.
Yeah.
How did your family react when you told them you were writing a novel?
Mum everybody was very supportive. Everyone was very supportive. And where I'm lucky, both my sisters are very creative, and they're sort of used to us having harebrained schemes. So it was just, that's good. Good luck with that. And I think, actually, Mum and Dad, when they were young, don't know, can't give away any secrets. Anyway, I was in primary school. They did a series of 6 books called the Mindy Series, and wrote stories and took photographs of six different stories. They were all pitched at different primary school levels. I remember they read one on play school when the clock turns around and the book came, and it was like reading time on play school, and I just remember that was the most amazing thing, seeing people that I knew in stories that were living. And so, in that way, just like what we just said, you're following a path. It had been done before, so I sort of didn't doubt that I could do it, which was really lovely.
Oh, that's good. Was there a point where you did doubt that you could do it?
Oh, yes. When it was all ideas, I thought, this is just me babbling. How's it going to sit together? What's the point here? When you're sort of trying to mold your ideas into this unique thing, and you think, I don't know how to do this. I have no idea how to think in this way. And I was really lucky. For a birthday present, I got given money to go and do a course at Writing New South Wales, which I want to say hello and thank you very much to Emily Maguire, was the mentor there. And I had chapters of unrelated things. And over the period of a year, there was about 25 of us in the class. It was really wonderful to be alongside people who might be a little bit further than you or experiencing the same thing. And we were going on this journey together. And she taught us all how to think about things and how to order your priorities and how to question yourself. And without that, you know, I'd still be locked away in my room wondering what I would be doing. That course, just hearing how people think and talk about writing books was enough for me to go for it. So love and thank you, Emily, Writing New South Wales. And Kathy Craigie, actually before that, I did an Indigenous fellowship with Writing New South Wales, and Kathy Craigie, she had a mentorship, and I was paired with Larissa Brent, a country woman of mine. For a year, she took me out for dinner once a month and said, you can do it.
Yeah.
How deadly is that? How beautiful is that? Yeah. You know, she didn't want to read anything. She said she said she would if I had it, but she'd turn up every month and say, keep going.
Yeah.
And that was all I needed. Yeah.
Yeah. Sometimes all that you need, hey, other people, knowing you're not alone.
That's right. I mean, you are exactly the same. You're still doing it with me, with stuff, and you know, people who do these things, I'm learning, are wonderful, generous. Isn't it a wonderful thing to think that your success lies in somebody else's business? That's a very rare thing in Sydney, anyway. I don't know what it's like in Brisbane. But down here, you know, you've got to get them out of the way, and I'll go there and I'll go in first and you just listen to me. It's a little bit like that sometimes, but that beautiful generosity and always questioning and never giving you an answer, that's a special way to be.
Yeah. Thank you. I think that's a very generous.
Lucy, this thing.
Sorry,
I'm back.
I think you're frozen. We've lost Grace, everybody, for the moment. Sorry about that. Let's see if we can get her back. Nardi, maybe while we wait, I don't know if you have a reading prepared or if you wanted me to read a couple of the questions that have come in while we wait for Grace to come back.
We can do questions if you like, because I did a reading. Sometimes when people go on, you think, yeah, whatever.
I don't think that would happen at all. One of the first comments that we had come through is how beautiful your reading is.
Oh, that's very kind. I'm a frustrated actress. I think I'm more deadly, you know. If you put some words in front of me and give me a space, I'll go for it.
A couple of comments just saying how awesome you are and how lovely it is to be here. First question has come from Alana, who says, I'd love to know more about Nardi's writing process. Is she more of a plotter or a pantser? Also, does she use music a lot while writing? Listening to some for inspiration, for example?
I just go for it. Once I try and plot things, I get obsessed with getting this order of the plot. It's sort of like I remember on Red Dwarf with Rimmer. This is weird reference anyway. He had to make a study schedule, and he focused on the schedule so hard that he missed the exam, and I can tend to do that. So I'm better just to write. And I wrote a lot of this in cafes. It was really funny because I'm sensitive to sound, but I like to have the sound of life going on when I was creating. But when I was editing, I needed to be secluded and really quiet because, I don't know, I think I was being more analytical than conceptual, so I had to change those different things. And the thing that I loved about this process was the transition between music and writing. For me, I held on to the rhythm of words, which is what I'm good at in musically, you know. My singing is okay, but the lyrics are the thing that sort of I can do a lot better. And so when words without melody were on the page, the way that the words interacted became the contour of the melody. So I was really happy with that because I thought, yeah, I'm going from one thing to another. How am I going to do this? But the what's the word? The tempo and the length and the relationship of words to each other in a sentence and on a page, I really got into that. Sounds a bit nerdy. Anyway, that sort of, and actually I wrote as if it was being spoken. So often that changed. Actually, Grace was a really wonderful teacher in being able to negotiate spoken word with written word and the different sort of things that you need with those things. So I was a bit all over the place by the sounds of things, cafes and solitude and yeah. Oh, and like, you know, I've never done it before. And the next time I do it, fingers crossed, it may be completely different. So I'm learning all the time, yeah.
Lovely, thank you. We've got Grace back now. Just taken Grace off mute, so let's see.
Hello everyone, sorry about that. Technical difficulty.
Good to be back.
Thanks for carrying on, Nardi.
I just told everyone I'm a frustrated actress, so if you go away again, I've got another 2 hours worth of stuff, I'm sure.
I don't think you would ever run out of material.
That's bad. I have to watch that in the future.
I'm so sorry. What I was trying to ask before my laptop had a technical issue was sometimes the people who have passed on influence the ones who are living still.
Well, they're the ones you got to watch out for. Hey, we know blackfellas, if they're not here, they're going to have more say than the ones that you can see. I think, Uluru people anyway, our whole world is constructed to make that happen. You know, that if you're not living, you're elsewhere and you're always connected to the people and the place that you came from. And you're active in those connections and relationships. So, you know, we think about the Billymils and Margaret and Celie and Millie, but they've got generations up there that are working for them in the story to get them to a place that they need to be. And I think, you know how we always get, you know, we're a little bit windy, a bit scary, and a bit superstitious and all that. That's because we have
real, boss.
Yeah, we have belief in. Well, it's all going back to your question, Grace. How can you have that much love for somebody and then it be gone? You don't have to be Aboriginal to think. All of that is still a breathing part of who you are.
Yeah, and that kind of ties into something that I know we discussed a bit through the editing and the working through of Song of the Crocodile, was what non-Indigenous people might call magical realism as a, as a fiction device. What do you think about that? I can tell by your face what you think. Because you don't think this is.
Well, someone asked me once, magical realism. I thought, what the hell is that? I actually had never heard the term before, but I kind of worked it out on my feet. But then I thought, I said to you the other day, one person's magical realism is another person's non-fiction. And I think, personally for me, I'm wary of people engaging with the dream time as a mythical thing. Because within that, thinking about that, this long time ago, there's no responsibility. That just, you can let that be. But actually that is the most, what's the word? Formalised, structured time for blackfellas. That's the constitution in those stories. That's our law. That's business time, that's politics, that's economics, all that stuff. In those stories that, when people first engaged with them were myths and legends, the gravity of those things is inbuilt into those things. Anyway, when it appears in the book, I'm cheated a bit. It works two ways. It releases a bit of tension and trauma as a reader, but also Aboriginal peoples will go, this is the stuff we need to really, really engage with deeply. So it's got this dual use in the book, but in life, it is, they're the laws, they're the rules. And so, depending on where you come from, you'll call it magical realism or non-fiction. That's just people being different. But if you're aware that maybe the opposite is to what you think can happen, that's all you can ask.
That's all you can ask. Yep. I would like to ask about how you felt after those 2 mentorship programs that you went through. Did you feel like you had something then? Did you feel like, yes, this is right, this is what I know I should do?
I think it sort of crept upon. I think actually it came from the environment. I mean, with Larissa, I don't know if I was writing a lot or creating new stuff. I was twiddling, but the dominant thing was that I had slotted into a community of support. That was the thing I couldn't get over in the first. Like, what? There are people who want to help me do this? Wow. That was, because music also is it's very siloed. You're right in your room, you might perform to people, but it's a very insular thing. I know writing is as well, but you need a community to get the book over the line. And definitely for the second one, it was coming to terms with, okay, all right, there's people here that I can learn and share from. And what I was learning at that time was getting my skills up to do it. And I think, I was thinking about it the other day. This is weird. I talk to myself all the time in the car. And I was thinking about, and I was saying to myself, gee, I love that course. That's the only course I've ever finished in my life. And I said to myself, this is tragic anyway. I started crying because I said, I always felt guilty for being creative. Like, I've never found a job that I can go to 5 days a week. No way, can't do it. Like I've always thought, I'm not made for that, and I sort of thought that's a cop out, you know. And I realised 2/3 of the way through that course that was a job that I could go to every day, and I'd never found the right thing for me, and I was crying along singing the Elton John in the car. But but I realised that I sort of, you know, was I still being selfish? I felt like it was right for me, and I wasn't being selfish because hopefully it can mean something to more than just me.
No, that's really powerful.
Was I convinced? I don't know. Did I convince myself? I'm not sure.
Still not convinced, even though the book's out in the world now?
Oh, well, yeah, but I think, anyway, I don't know, we get pressure to have a job. You know? And
it's true.
On bits and pieces, a bit of that, bit of this, bit of that, and never had anything to sort of think, apart from singing, which, you know, is sporadic. Never had a thing that I thought, oh, this is what I'm really good, this is the thing that I'm best at. And I sort of felt towards the end of Emily's class that this actually could be it. I don't know whether it is, but I thought, this could be it. I'm really close.
Well, just from what I've seen and read, I think you're a natural writer. And it might be the thing for you, amongst many other things that you're really good at. What did it feel like when you won Black and White? What did it feel like submitting to Black and White and then winning it?
Well, Emily Maguire said, have you thought she read everybody's manuscript that they had at the end of the year? Another example of a beautiful generosity, an act of generosity. Have you thought about what you're going to do? I thought, oh, I'll just keep going and think about it when I feel like I've finished. She said, well, there's Black and White Indigenous Fellowship. Put it in and you will get feedback. So you can't, it's a winning situation. You know, you will get feedback, and that is, you know, that's as good as anything. And so it was really through her suggestion that put it in. And then I remember I was up in Lightning Ridge, and I was driving somewhere, I don't know, and the phone rang. I gave it to my partner George. I said, here, 07, I don't know 07. And then he said, oh no, she's driving at the moment, she can't take the call. And then Kathy Craigie got on the phone, they know each other, and she said, put Nardi on. And I was successful. And I mean, how weird is that? We were in the Ridge and this beautiful call came in. You know, a new, what is it? Not a new life. It's like when you go from high school, you go from primary school into high school. That's what happened. I went from primary school into high school, where you were my next beautiful mentor. Just went up.
Yeah. That's very sweet thing to say. But how did your family react when you told them that you'd won?
Oh, I got a few big mouths in the family, so I didn't let people told me to keep it quiet, and I had to. His mouth open. He answered the phone, so I thought, oh well. He was good actually, George, and everyone was very excited. Everyone. Well, when I say everyone, I tell Mum and my sisters, and they were very. Of course, we've got this. We're lucky because we have these wonderful opportunities come to all of us at different times. So one person's good news is everybody's, and you know, Mum was really excited. I got the biggest squeeze from her at we had what do we have? Gin and tonic and a lemon squash to celebrate.
Yep. In Lightning Ridge.
Yep, at what do they call it? Newtown. Oh, the locals call it Newtown. It's something Lightning Ridge Hotel.
Wow, that would have been great. And I see a few of your family are here tonight in the Zoom watching you.
Yes, I've got a few, and I've got family from. I've got a. What do I call it? A chapter of family down in Braidwood, in Mittagong, down in Canberra, and then Simpsons all over the state. So it's really beautiful to see everybody.
It really is. I want to talk about language and how you put the language into the book, because I think you might have been learning a bit of it at the time. I mean, we're all learning all the time, but I want to talk about how that kind of came in parallel with this writing of this book.
I've been doing Gamilaroi classes for 10 years. And the thing I love about that is what there are words for and what there aren't. I love to, in between the words, the reasoning for. And the
Do you think in Uluru sometimes?
I think if I am focused, not in my everyday life, I've got to try and order in everyday life, I've got to try and apply Uluru to an English sensibility. But when you write, because you control that dome of the world, you can explore language in that way. And so there are Uluru words there, Uluru words and word concepts, language concepts. Then there are also words that I have adjusted. So the town of Darnmoor is a word that I made up from Uluru word called Darnmoor, which means graveyard. And so there's me playing around with language as well. And that lovely girl with the big long name that I'll say for everyone so you know it. Malawil Dulmurunga. Malawil Dulmurunga. So that beautiful name is a construction of real Uluru words, but put in a way that means this girl. Malawil is our word for shadow. And we've got a whole lot of stuff around shadows. You have to orient yourself around people's shadows. It's an extension of self. Malawil. Dul is our little suffix for little. So little shadow. Muran is a 5-letter word we have that translates to the darkest point before dawn. That time means that time. And dark means at or on. So Malawil Dul Murunga. She's the little shadow at the darkest point before dawn. And so that was me playing around with this thing. And then what is a shadow at the darkest point? She doesn't exist. But yet, she's very important. And the things that she's gone through to still exist in the story have these kind of historical connotations. But, there's me playing around in the text, which is part of my learning. That's how I approached it. Not to show people what I know, because there's more that I don't, but to have a relationship with language, whether it's old, ways, traditional ways, Gumbai and Bitterly and all that stuff, or playing around with language and concepts in new ways. That was me practicing relationship to place.
Thank you. Thank you for that. Emma Kate is letting me know that we've had a lot of questions, so I might pass over to her.
Thank you.
Ask us some.
Thanks, Nardi. This has been such a wonderful discussion. It's been really lovely to host tonight. And yeah, we've had loads of comments and questions come in. As we are in the last 10 minutes of the event, what I'm going to do is I'll ask the most common ones that we've had, because we have had a few repeats. And Nardi, I'll send you a transcript of this chat box so that you can read all of the comments that have come through as well, because lots of your friends and family are writing. So I'll send you a transcript afterwards, because otherwise I'll be taking up all my time reading through them. And I know that all of you in attendance tonight want to have some answers here. So the first question, which has come through from several people, is what advice would you give to future and emerging Indigenous writers who are still discovering their talents?
Well, look, I feel like a fraud. I can't give advice because I've only just done it. But I mean, I think this is weird, but this will work. I did an African drumming course 5 years ago. And the guy from Ghana, he was a master drummer, and he was playing all these rhythms. And, you know, we were going, okay. And then he played a really hard one. He went, boom, and he pointed at me and he said, you. And I went, boom. He said, trust yourself. And then I went, boom, like that, and I nailed it. And I thought, that is a lesson. All it took was this man to say, trust yourself. And I had it in me. So from African drumming at community college, I think that's probably the wisest words that I can pass on from somebody else is trust yourself. And also there's a beautiful quote from a Chickasaw lady, Turtle Island. She says, we're the love of thousands, us First Nations. We're the love of thousands. So if you trust yourself and you know that you've got thousands of people wanting you to succeed, you'll be right. Yeah.
Lovely, thank you. A few other people have asked what you would most like readers to take away from this book.
Well, I was thinking about, you know, the physical thing has got a front and back. I would really love for people to feel the sense that this belongs to a landscape where the stories oscillate around and in. This isn't the only thing, that there are thousands of these things up in Uluru country, and people who can tell those things, and the language and talking about the place and the stories are part of a landscape of connection somewhere else. So if you can kind of get that sense, then this world of story and connection sort of is alive. I would really love people to have a sense that when you close the back page, the story continues and somebody else takes it on and tells it in a different way. Yeah.
Thank you. And loads of people asking, this must be the most common question, I think. What is next for you? Are you writing anything else?
I was up all night till 4 a.m. this morning, Googling Airbnb, because I thought, I'm going to get myself a little place for a week and start writing a new book. I reckon now it's time. It's funny how things like, you know, feel like it's time. And I haven't been creative writing for a few months. So, you know, I'm not going to waste all my sleeping time. I'm going to use all that waking time to find a right Airbnb, and I'm going to go and start writing again. But I have a lot of little side hustles. I'm doing a little bit of composing. I'm studying down at ANU, and I'm lucky I've got a lot of different creative projects going. But Airbnb, I'm not doing an ad for it. I shouldn't keep saying it, but I'm going to find a really nice place where I can look at an escarpment, and I'm going to go and write for a week.
Lovely. Thank you so much, Nardi, and thank you, Grace. This has been an absolutely wonderful discussion. Now, before I take everybody off mute so that they can join me in thanking you both, I'd like to hand back to you if you have any final comments that you would like to make.
I'd just really like to say Gabon and thank you to Avid Reader for hosting this event, to all the wonderful people that turned up. Look, I know how painful are Zooms if you've got to do it for work. So I appreciate you mob doing it when you don't need to do it. Thank you so much for sharing that time. Of course, Black and Write and Grace, who they made it happen. Writing New South Wales, and Emily Maguire, and Jane McCready, who's been very, very supportive a long time ago, 6 years ago, with me when I picked up a pen. I really appreciate that. Hachette, who I just learned how to say it properly. I was saying it, you know, real bogan. I was calling him Hatchet. Gee, I think I did Twitter. I don't know what I'm doing on Twitter. And I spelled it with a T, and I thought, oh, that's bad. Don't get it wrong, put it on Twitter. Anyway, Hachette. And Watkins, who's been really wonderful there. And Emily, who's the publicist, who's another all these deadly young women who've got their act together. You know, I wish I was you. I wish I had 20 years, could go 20 years back and be as wonderful as all you fellas. And of course, all my family and my friends for giving me love and support to think that, you know, I can have a go at whatever tickles my fancy. So big love to everyone. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I'm going to take everybody off mute. I can see people clapping, lots of smiling faces. So I'm going to take everybody off mute now so that you can all join me in thanking Grace and Nardi. Everybody's off mute.
Yeah. Congrats. So proud.
Thank you all so much, everybody. Have a lovely evening.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye.